Kayuk. Welcome to another edition of African Americans and Africans, the thing show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find their way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One. And today we're going to talk about something serious that's going on within the culture, and it's real. So, you heard of all these diseases, they, come up with names. They use acronyms like whatever, PCDR, whatever acronyms they come up with or letters they come up with to explain a condition. But to explain the condition would take too long when you're passing or when you're going, through life. So there's a disorder that's going around, the so-called African American, Black, these group of people who make up the majority of the people in the world, but they just don't recognize who they are. And you can find that out when you have a conversation with them. They're always talking about something else, what somebody else said, what somebody else did, somebody's religions, somebody's holiday, whatever. You'll know that they're always talking about this. That's all they ever talk about. They can't talk about anything else. So this is, and you guys can try this as an experiment too. But don't look at what the person says. Watch the expression on their face first. Because remember, you think it, you say it, then you do it. So when you ask somebody a question, they're going to think about it. The expression on their face is going to let you know what they feel about the subject every time. Try it sometime. It works on yourself. Check it out. What a person thinks or feel about something lets you know their emotional attachment to it. I mean, this is like simple. This is thinking 101. The expression on their face is going to tell you not what they're going to say, because what they're normally going to say, what they're normally going to do is lie. That's the language of people who don't even know what their brain is for. They just lie. That's the language. Don't ask what they say, ask are they lying? Because that's all they know how to do, because they know nothing about themselves. This is how you can test this theory out for yourself today when this live is over. Ask the person, this is just an example. There's millions of them. That's how disconnected the indigenous people of the Americas are of themselves. They don't know nothing and arrogant about it. So this is how you know. So I had this young lady call me up and she was pissed off because I was talking about Christianity. Killing it, y'all. It was just so they can't stand. They normally run and hide because they know what you're saying is true. Because remember, they're devil worshipers. It's Satan worship. Just read it. I mean, that's all you got to do is read it. So she's going off on me. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, ma'am, let her know that the English and the Germans, they bought Christianity over when they came over. De Soto and all of those people bought Catholicism, right? Fard Muhammad bought Islam, ma'am. And this is what I mean, how we don't know a goddamn thing about ourselves, but always running our mouth. Shut up, ma'am. If you're a Christian, you tell me about Jesus and the 12 disciples and blah, 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 blah. Ma'am, could you share with me the spiritual stories of the people who were here before those Christians came, I didn't like I just told you guys, I just looked at the expression on her face, and the expression on her face was, "Huh?" Ma'am, you heard me. These people bought a spiritual practice over here. What were the spiritual practices of the people that were here when they came? She didn't have a clue. And this sister was 60 years old, running her yap, not knowing anything. That's the African American. That's the Black person. They know nothing about themselves, but they always talking about somebody else. Try this, it works. You're gonna be like, okay. And if you try it, at least buy a book if it pans out. The people that you call African American, Black, Hebrew Israelite, Moor, Greek fraternity, blah, 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 all these, they don't have an idea of who they are. Just talking to them, just hearing them speak makes you want to vomit. They don't have a clue. So we're like, what is that? I mean, it's kind of like, a kid who has autism or something. And to me, autism is they see what's going on and they just don't want to participate in this shit, this dumb shit. Or whenever they tell you that you got a problem, is something that's going on within the culture that you're in. Your higher self doesn't want to be a part of that. Your higher self doesn't want to be a part of it. Unbeknownst to you, because you know nothing, because you're Black, you're African American, you're Hebrew Israelite, you're a Moor. You're always talking about other people and lick them deep in the throat. You love it. Every person you hear about, all these people talking, all they doing is talking about something that they don't know what they're talking about. Why do you think your videos of old rap people, why do you think they're so popular? Why do you want to hear about garbage? Come on, let's face it. The music that you listen to now and that you've been listening to for the past 40 years is garbage. Why? And when I say this, you're gonna be like, I never thought of it like that. Why is it garbage? Because they don't take the time to master the instrument. That's what music is about. These guys just didn't go to the studio high and blah, 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 and just start making stuff. They had to practice their craft. And saying something over and over again is not practicing your craft. Well, it is, but make sure it's being put out the right way. And what's being put out as music today is just computer generated garbage with people talking about stuff that makes no sense. That's been going on for the last 40 years. That's been going on since rap music basically hit. And the people worship it. Worship it. They worship that more than they worship Jesus, don't they? The music is garbage. So we came up with this dilemma. What is this? What is this? You can't point nothing out to an African American or Black. You can't, what they believe, they won't even read it because they know you're telling the truth. And they're really what they are, that's what they are. They're protecting that. They are. They're a disembodied spirit. They're not connected to anything. And that's the religious, or I'm not, I don't want to say religious, that's the spiritual impact of what the indigenous people had. They had realities that they believed in, that they did, that they practiced with it. It wasn't that they knew something, it's what they did. They were in the spiritual matrix over here. That's what they did. They did it. That's why they call them God people. Indigo. That's why those names were given to them. That's what the people called them. It's not what they call themselves. Nobody in their right mind calls themselves something that they're not. Amen. Isn't that how it's done? If you tell me your name is Bob, you want me to call you Bob. Now, where the name Bob comes from and all that, it don't matter. You want me to call you what you are. So if a rapper comes up to you, he wants you to look at him as a rapper, a guitarist, whatever somebody introduced themselves as, you want to introduce them to by what they want to be called. It's simple. You do it. The African American, the black, the Negro, the colored, always want to be called by what somebody told him he is. And then act like that's not the case. We call that ASMSD. We call that ASMSD, African Slave Mental Stress Disorder. And you guys are going to find this is real. And it's just not mental stress disorder, it's everything. ASMSD is you're never thinking for yourself. You're always thinking for a character. You're always doing what somebody else say do. Never what's been passed down through you, through your bloodline. Never an idea or a aha moment that you had. You're always eating out of somebody else's mouth. That's the African American, black, Negro, color, especially when it comes to them. Let me give you an example. I mean, this is not just knee deep, y'all. Here's an example. Imagine somebody telling you who you are. Your mama didn't tell you. Your granddaddy and grandmama didn't tell you. None of your aunts told you. None of your friends told you. None of your uncles said nothing. None of your teachers. Well, your teachers tried to send it down your throat. Your teachers tried to make you believe it. And you gotta know what the teachers are and how long that's been going on. That's been going on since the early 1900s, turn of the century, to train you to be what you have become now. Because you have to remember, people that always talk about how good education is when it's not. Damn, you just look at what's going on. It's not. The medical profession, do they heal anybody? Do they help anybody? I mean, by now, at least, come on. By now, you should see that the medical industry needs participants. Guess who they get to participate. The people who have no connection to anything, that's the black people. Remember, black means dark. You can't see nothing. There's a whole lot of definitions that go along with the word. Just don't say, oh, the word blue means, and that's all it is to it. It doesn't work like that. That's not how words are used. We're trained, people who call themselves African American, but I mean, this is everybody. But this is in particular because we have a problem brewing, and it doesn't seem like the adults, they're not going to handle it. So this is just passed down to the youth, the 20 to the 30-year-olds, because as I can see it, they're on top of things. More, I'm not saying all, I'm just saying of what I see. And what I see is more young people ages, well, I'll say 18, 16 through 20, more between 16 through 20, I'm sorry, 16 through 30, 16 through 30. I think more of those young people, they understand. They're getting connected. So joining me this morning, as always, and you know she's always here.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Then cut your mic off. Good, she did. So you know how some women do the time thing. It always take time. That lets you know that we're not in the same time frame as these people. Will you always say that we're late or whatever? No, no. Somebody has said 10 seconds is this much time. There is no time. That's the matrix we've been on for so long. We're not going to get off of it. So it's not late. It's late, like you did something wrong, like it's a mark against you, like you got to check. It's not late. You're just on a different frequency than the people who telling you what frequency you're on. And unfortunately, most African American blacks, 9.9 times out of 10, they do what they're told. They don't think of nothing. They don't come up with another plan. And I'm not saying everybody do this, but for the amount of people that we have and what's being shown, about 99, I'll say 90%. They're not connected to themselves. They're not connected to anybody. That's why we were talking about the spiritual aspect of it. They weren't Christians. Nobody told them about two men having a baby. Somebody came over and told them that, and they believed it. And they passed it down to their children, kicked their kids out the house. If the kids didn't want to go with it, the kid was just saying, damn, it's garbage. The African American black didn't want to do that. You want to do what boss say. That's all they ever do. They don't do nothing that they'll snitch on. They're horrible. They're what their definition caused them to be. Black. Now, if you saw a black, I'm talking about the black, something black. If you saw something black walking down the street, you would pull your hair out. You would think of a monster. That's what the word implies. We never get it. They put your nose in the piss, hit you on the back of the head with a newspaper, and say, this is what it means, nigga. That's how the African American, black, Negro are trained, right or wrong. And if it's right, damn it, say it. That's how it's done. You're not connected to your mothers and grandmothers, and you're not connected through that matrix. You're not connected to natures. You don't know that the hairs on your body stand up for, you don't know that. You only know what you've been taught, not you, the audience. I'm talking about the African American, Negro, black, colored. But enough about me. What's going on, Lisa? You ready yet? Still not ready. You see? You see? I gotta put on my lipstick. No, I'm just kidding. Aren't those the most beautiful women though? The ones who don't wear all that stuff on their face. They look like, the day they were born, you know. Yeah, those the women I like. Don't have all that. What do you call accessories, bells jangling and all that stuff. One that looks like something in nature that you'd see, something beautiful. And the natural world doesn't paint itself up. It doesn't have to. So ASMSD. So I mean, the best thing you can think about that I would relate it to is autism times 100. Because like I said earlier, I don't think autistic kids, I don't think these people that are retarded, yeah, they may look retarded, but they mental capacity is not that. These people have something to say. And if you talk to them, you'll see that what they have to say makes more sense than the people who most African American and blacks worship. Look,
Okay, I found this on the web for what's the African American and Black worship. Check it out.
this is what they worship. Worship, looking at something more important or better than themselves. That's what worship. So ASMSD, that's a real problem that's going on in the community. The African slave mental stress disorder, and it stretches to other aspects of the life. And we'll get into that too. So, how do you know? How do you know if you suffer from ASMSD? How do you know if you suffer? You can diagnose yourself. What are the symptoms? What are the symptoms? The symptoms are you don't have a clue of who you are. This is how you know you have it. You don't have a clue. I mean, Biggie's the name of Biggie albums. James Earl Jones, his mom. All of that useless knowledge. You know, I know a cat. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. This blew me away. I knew a cat that knew all the addresses to the college football stadiums around the country. And when I asked him what does that information serve? What of you knowing that how does that help us? He said it don't. I just wanted to know why. And he could never answer. That type, that's the type stuff that's going on. Knowing about everybody else's history. You know about Greeks' history. You know about Africans' history. I'm talking about before you were given a history by somebody else. So when I ask, so I like to just get detail. And that's another thing we got to start getting to is detail. Don't let people just come up and tell you anything. Detail them. Ask them questions about it to see if the questions, his answers, link up to what you're thinking and what you see and what you believe. These are people who are trying to get out of that slave disorder because it's real. We try to act like it's not. And if you talk to and try this, you get some of these groups, this social media, check out the social media, what's going on in social media. And get away in there to get a question in to the person who's talking. They have some out here that are off the hook. like I said, 90% is garbage. And all you have to do is ask the person who's speaking a question. And if the question doesn't make sense, you're not vibing to what they say, ask them another question. About time you finish talking to them, you should have a complete understanding of what they're saying. You can't go through 50 years of your life, read the Bible and say, I didn't know it said that. It does say that. They put it right in your face. Because if they put it in your face and they can get away with it, you don't say nothing, you be quiet, you be what you're telling them is it's okay to do that. And doesn't the African American, Negro, Black, colored do that? Don't they do that? Don't the African American, knowing that your education system is in hand of the Rockefellers, knowing this is 100-year-old news that the education system is in the hands of the people who made you dumb, and you will still send your children. That's the African American and Black. Will never look out for themselves. Will never ask themselves, why is everybody running over here? They running over here for what your people had set up before, what your people have done, but you don't think you're those people. That's the slave disorder that we're talking about. So, Lisa, are you back? Are you ready? So, being that's the case, we're going to discuss this. We're going to discuss this and make sense of it. And the reason we're sharing it with you, because we want you to as you're walking through this maze, this matrix, we want you to have some tools where you can, you defend yourself and know where to put yourself and all that. Because remember, you're part of the natural complex. You're a natural person. You're not an artificial person. And let me clarify that. Your people weren't artificial. The indigenous people, before the arrival of the visitors, weren't artificial people. They were natural people. So that's gonna permeate through you regardless. Now, when you choose to ignore that, when you choose to ignore that, whatever happens, happen. And we can see the outcome of that. Right? So we have to start looking at stuff in reality, and we gotta, be right. Most people don't want to look at things of how they are. They want to look at things of how they wish them to be. So, what are some of the telltale signs that you have ASMSD? Anybody? I mean, here's the link. I'm gonna post the link to the you can get on, because remember, I don't know a lot. Where I come from, I'm the dummy. You know stuff too. And if you could share with us what you think, how do you see it? Trust me, it really helps a lot of us. So I'm posting the link in the chat right now. Anybody want to come on and make themselves heard, please do. And when you have something to say, or you see something that's wrong or a muck or something, you're either going to do one or two things. You're going to hide it because you're part of that. But and something that always I never got, why do somebody shoot or kill a person, then run. Why do they do that? Okay, so here's why I think, because they're so ashamed of themselves, they have to hide themselves from human eyes. They're ashamed of themselves, but they don't want you to be ashamed of them. What is that? What is that? They're ashamed of themselves, yet they don't want you to be ashamed. So they run and hide. Symptoms of ASM, SD. Well, that was just one of them. What's another symptom? Something that, and what I mean by system is something that I mean, used to be a part of. You used to do this like breathing. Now you don't even think it's real. You won't even, I ain't doing that. What are some of the things? Now remember, the environment has been trashed completely. They have roads in the South that you can walk on them, and they're outside, that is softer than any material made by man. This is stuff that your folks did. Since you're African, those are not your folks. You see how that works? You see how you're trained? You don't get an education, you're trained. You're a mouse on one of those little wheels that they run on, and somebody is there prodding you on where to go with a stick. Bam, the super predator said menticide. What y'all know about menticide? What, second grade. What do you know about menticide? Who came up with the menticide? So you have Bam, the super predator, to thank for handing this off to you. Menticide, that's definitely a symptom of ASMSD. You know, man, I wish, could you give us the definition of menticide, sir? You don't know the definition of menticide, y'all. You gotta know it. These are, like I say, these are your people. These are your people that set up ideas, set up ways for you, but you just ignore it. Nobody told me. This stuff is 50 years old. Menticide, and if you want to get the definition of menticide, do this, because since this word has been created, all kind of people have attached what they believe what it is. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go to the source. The source. And the guy who coined menticide, write this down. You're gonna thank me for this one. Is named Dr. Bobby E. Wright. Say it again, Dr. Bobby E. Wright. He's from Alabama. Uh, all indigenous town in Alabama, but he went up north and went to school in Chicago. Blew their mind. He's kind of like, and I know you guys heard of Amos Wilson, kind of like that. These people aren't stupid. These people, you're not stupid. Your ancestors are not stupid. you were that was given to you because you were asking questions like, what the hell are you talking about? These people were coming in doing all kind of stuff that you didn't do. The people who saw it was something was up were phased out, were hunted down, were killed, were ran away. And the people, those of us that thought what they were putting down was cool, those are the people who got elected to office, got to be teachers, got jobs. That's how it went. If anybody got a better explanation of how it went, please share. Please share. So now you're getting to the point where the masses, they don't even learning, they don't even want to learn. Listen, go to these uh, chat rooms. That's where you're going to get a whole bunch of people at a time. So people are having chats with 60, 70 people, and that's a lot of minds that are being molded by this garbage that's coming out. And you got to go out there and hear what's going on, because they're definitely making it bad for the indigenous people here. And so those people who choose not to be themselves, they become stepping stones for other people. See, everything you do, people always say, well, that came from us. Yeah, but how did somebody take it from you and make the money off of it and told you to sit down and shut up because you was cool to sit down and shut up? Not you, of course. I'm about the masses of people that let this go on. Because remember, the indigenous people are not the minority here. Where do you go in the world where the indigenous people, i.e., the people who were there before everybody got there, how they the minority and they've been there before whatever they say time is? How are they the minority? The Black African American doesn't ask themselves that. They tell you what they want you to know. That's all. They tell you what you want you to know. You there?
Woo! Yes, finally. Wow, this took a lot. Woo. Damn. He didn't want me to get this going. Anyway, I'll tell you what happened with Streamyard. But Streamyard, yeah, they doing some messed up stuff. Okay. Yes. I like you going over the menticide definition. That's all. Yeah, you did talk about that before. That's true. However, a lot of people haven't heard of it. They don't really understand it. And they are suffering because of it. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear.
Oh, good. Well, anyway, I really enjoyed you doing that because it's definitely connected to ASMSD. ASMSD. Do you have it? Do you know what it is? How can you tell? What is it? How's it happening? So, one thing you discussed yesterday is that you know some people that everything that they trust and everything they believe, it originates from somebody else. And that's the only way they do trust it or believe it. It has to come from somebody else. It can't come from someone like them. If it comes from someone like them, they don't believe it. They're skeptical immediately, right? Tell me about the
Right.
example you gave me. Tell me about that. Give me that.
When anything You couldn't have done it. Like you just said, you're black. You're not going to believe that. You're turned away from yourself from the jump. Nothing. Hey, you've had this happen to you before. If you ask somebody to think about something, they'll say, "I don't like to think. My head hurts." Huh? So I'm talking about the job that fall on us. That's on us,
Right.
man.
Right.
That's on us. So yeah, people not, paying attention to acting like they just here to be somebody else's roll of toilet paper. So that's what we
Mhm.
act like. Like you can't tell a Croatian anything. That's why they have all these coaches coming from different countries coaching these indigenous men. And there have been plenty of times where these indigenous men have called them dudes, they coaches, daddy,
Exactly.
right? So yeah, that's what I mean. When you call yourself black, African American, more, you don't know who you are. You're just grasping for something. That's what's going on. It's not that you don't have no confidence in me or you have no confidence in Lisa. You have no confidence in yourself. You have nothing about yourself because you think you're just a leaf blowing around, and what anybody says or what anybody does, it's okay.
Mm, 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 mm.
I mean, is this how the African American works? I mean, this is their operating system. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of get mad, but I didn't ask you to get mad. I asked you, was that true? And the answer is yeah. It's like when I give the person, you ask them, well, you talk about this Christianity and all this. What did the indigenous people, what was their religious ideologies? Then you see that look on their face like, huh? You know what's happening. These people have been trained to be something they are not. So when you bring up, uh, the problem, when you bring up the ASMSD, is that not a symptom? I know you don't like it, but isn't that a system, a symptom? Everybody will get mad. First thing they do, get mad, but the question doesn't get answered. And that's how the Black, African American, Negro, colored, all these groups that everybody lumps themselves in, that's where they're being directed to, or what they themselves direct themselves to. Absolutely nothing. Here's the definition. Here's the definition of menticide. And we have Bam, the super predator, to thank for this. Menticide is a term used to describe a system of psychological manipulation and judicial corruption that aims to control a person's mind. It can also refer to the act of brainwashing someone against, I don't I, and it goes on. It's simple. It's simple. And the person who came up with this is, like I said, Bobby E. Wright. You could check out some videos of his on YouTube. He had one that's about an hour and 18 minutes. It'll be one of the highlights of your life if you check it out. Simple, everyday stuff that he talks about. You'll be like, so, but remember, he made this in 1980. So just update everything he's saying with what's going on now. So the TV shows here he's talking about back then are the Jeffersons, updated with a TV show that is being shown today. Exact same thing. Menticide. It's twitch you out. Lisa, you back?
I am. I've been around this time. I've been around. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay.
Well, for me, it's like if society. So this is the thing: if society invests zero money into your infrastructure as a people, and nothing into your standard of living, nothing into your opportunities, doesn't make any, but invest in things to make you believe that you're an immigrant. Like, yeah, we'll do a 12 years of slave movie. We'll do slave movies every so often, underground, all this stuff. They will build a museum to make you think you came from the belly of a ship. They'll invest in that, but they won't invest in anything that's going to build back better your communities when they destroyed your communities in many, 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 many ways. You had a whole country to yourself, or not to yourself, but you had a whole country to yourself. Yes, to yourself. And you had a whole country that you shared for many, many, many hundreds of years. You just didn't know it because you're taught that you was just a slave. You weren't taught that you had your own country here and you allow people to settle in it. That's not what you're taught. So you become what you're taught. You become that slave. And now people will cut you if you try to tell them they're not a slave, right? I am a descendant of a slave, and I'm proud. Why? Because in their minds, there is money attached to having that lineage. It's really an insane concept that you would actually want to deem your ancestors be chattel ignorant slaves so that you can get a check today, rather than actually researching the actual truth about your people. You are going to declare that you absolutely came from chattel. You mean like a hog? You calling your people hogs? You're doing that to your ancestors?
Horses.
Nah, horses is much better than that's going up. That's upgrading, folks. They want their family to be hogs and chattel. Something for human consumption, not a horse. That's elevated. A horse could be treated like part of the family. Chattel is for consumption. And that's what people who say that they come from chattel, that's what they're saying about their ancestry. That's really what they're saying. Right? That your people were for consumption only. You were products to be consumed. Chattel. You have no heart, no thoughts, no intellect, no nothing. You were just stock. Right? Just stock. So, but they do this for a check, an imaginary check that they think is going to magically appear because all of a sudden these imperial people care that your people were a slave. All of a sudden they care enough to give you a check, and they magically believe it because it makes no logical sense. Because what's the compulsion? What is compelling them to give you money all of a sudden now when they haven't given it to anyone in all this time? What is because now you got proof? No, you don't have proof. So what is the compulsion that's going to make you get a reparations check at this time? See, they don't even think about that. They don't even figure what's different today that's going to make the white tea that's here today different than the white tea that was dealing with you in 1960 or 1930 or 1900 or 1990 or 2000. What's different now? You know what I'm saying?
I have that definition from Bobby Wright, the guy who came up with menticide. Check out his definition. Like I said, Many of people have read this definition or heard this definition, and it blew their minds to sunder. And when the ashes fell where they may, they added things that they've learned, that they picked up from other people, and they added stuff to it and got all the definitions you see now. But here is the definition from the man himself. It's going to do the same thing to you, but check out what he said and ask yourself, is that what's going on now? The definition of menticide by Dr. Bobby Wright. The definition of menticide, the deliberate and systematic destruction of a person's or a group's mind, with the ultimate goal being destruction of that person or group. One more time. I don't want this to sink through. Menticide, the deliberate and systematic destruction of a person's or group's mind, with the ultimate goal being destruction of that person or that group. Bobby E. Wright. What? That's not ASMSD? You don't see that happening right now? So you notice every time you ask a Black person a question, they get mad. They suck their teeth. They roll their eyes. This is just for asking a question. This is what we're talking about, ASMSD. This is real, y'all.
Do you find yourself believing in slave trade from Africa, getting stressed and anxious and upset when anyone disagrees? Do you believe in DNA, that DNA is able to use your spit to determine that you are African? You should know true DNA matches the father sample to the child sample. It is a person to person match, not a person to geography match. You can't say what people were in Africa in the 1600s versus today, nor can you put yourself by spit in a certain location. That's insane. In order to really find out what you are, you would have to exhume everybody in history to get a foundational sample that would be worthy of such a feat. That's why when you want to know who's the daddy, your daddy is compared. It's not just thrown out there in the air and all of a sudden you know that the kids are in New Jersey. Oh, your kid's in New Jersey. It doesn't match the father to the kid. It matches the father to New Jersey? A location? No. That's obscene. It matches the father to the child. It matches the murderer to the murder victim's clothes. It is a person-to-person match. That's very simple. Everything else that they're trying to tell you that they can do is just guesswork and magical thinking. It is guesswork and magical thinking. And if you got these brothers on here talking about, yes, and this A chromosome and the mother and the father and the match, they're talking mumbo jumbo because basically this science isn't sciencing. It cannot, because this science is dependent on the data that is not available. We don't have anybody who has been verified as an American Indian from the past. We don't have that sample. We don't really even have the samples of the real Africans. And as a matter of fact, nobody that's being tested is really an African, because if they did test real Africans, we wouldn't match. That's why everybody finds their cousins that are American, because all they're doing is saying that your sample is African. They can call it anything they want to call it. They made up the test. Act like you got a brain, y'all. Act like you have a brain. They can call it whatever they want to. They can define it any way they want to define it. They made up the testing thing, and they made it up for our dumb butts, because it is imperative that we believe that we are from Africa. Now let's look at it this way. Why would you bring someone who's an African and call them a Negro or colored or everything else but African? And why is it that we have so-called lost our culture? We don't do the dances. So people say that about us being American Indian. No, you don't know the language. We don't know the African language. We don't know the African culture. Why would we lose that? It wasn't like we were marrying white folks like that. We were around other Africans, so-called, right? Everybody's from Africa. Then we were around a bunch of Africans. How do you lose a culture if your whole environment's surrounded by people who just came from Africa? How do you lose it? They're coming every damn day. They're coming every damn day. Every hour. More Africans fresh from Africa. How do you lose the culture if fresh Africans are coming in the tons, the millions of numbers that they claim were coming? This whole place should be like Little Africa for real. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It doesn't stand up to clear thought. It doesn't stand up to evaluation. Hey, family. What you got to say about it?
Menticide. And the cool thing about menticide to me is that, people that have it, they double down on them having it. I mean, I can't believe the amount of people that just think it's cool just to be where you are now. Never learning nothing. I got cats 60 years old still sending booty shots online. For real, cuz? They never grow up. And this is, I would say this has to be 85%. People not trying to learn, people not trying to figure out anything. People are not searching they're not even searching their family lineage. I'm not saying everybody's doing that. Some people are doing it and they're making tremendous strides. But the majority of people, who's your great grandma? I mean, when you really think about it, it's not that long ago since the people didn't do the time thing. That's another thing that I'm talking about. We got caught up in somebody's time. What time is it? What holiday is it? What month is it? Dude, really? You're binding yourself to what somebody else said.
Well,
And you're
go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, the other thing is that the ridiculousness of the whole theory of the Atlantic slave trade is just like, first of all, you don't know your history because England was broke as a joke. They were in an economic crisis. To put together a ship that could do whatever they claim it did and haul enough resources as far as food and fresh water to have these people not just die in the middle of the water, all of them, would cost millions in today's dollars, multi-millions of dollars, multi-millions. Were they hanging on for dear life like this picture? Were they in the bottom of a big hole and sitting there with rats and poop and vomit and blood? Is that survivable? No, it's not. Is it realistic? Because, honey, when you find out what the end game was, it really doesn't make any sense. And then the fact that we're not told about the white slaves. See, the thing about it is when they just say slaves, which a lot of times they're just saying slaves, and the educators are inserting Africans where slave is. The fake historians are inserting African where it just said slaves. They can't make that assumption. And that's a real evil assumption considering that the majority of slaves were white.
Hey, Lisa, can I add this? Can I add
Yeah.
this?
Hmm?
I just want to ask you this question. So you
Hmm.
know how the language changes and stuff over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be, I mean, this is probably stretching it, but couldn't it be those Slovakians, those Slavics, couldn't you use slave instead of Slav easily the way this language is set up?
Well, yeah, that's definitely a correlation. That's definitely true. That's a true correlation for sure. Because that is actually a true thing. The Slavics were enslaved and sold all over the place.
No,
So
but
that's
I
a
don't
real
mean like that, but I mean just getting their names mixed up and changed, in the whole
well,
matrix
I
of
don't think
things.
I don't think anything is really mixed up. I think everything is mixed on intent, not accidental.
No, 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 no. I understand that, but couldn't you have just okay, here's an example. Like you use African Americans and blacks. Blacks used to didn't be called African Americans. When the term black was first used, African American wasn't right there, as a definition. These things progress and they had to
No,
change it.
no, no, it's not progression. It's intentional, right? Because right now they're calling everybody African, right? They're calling the Negro African. They're saying in the 1900s, the African American, and I'll be like, wait a minute, we weren't called African American in 1900. And they'll say in 1865, the African, no, we were not called African American then. And then if you actually put your mind around it, why the hell weren't we called African all that time? Why didn't our grandparents use the term African? Why did they not want to be called African? Because actually, people did not want to be called African. That we weren't called it. It was that our ancestors did not want to be called African. Does anybody talk about that? And if they were really African, why would they be opposed to it? And they'll write that, oh, we denied our African. Why would you deny it? Everybody is African this year. Why deny it? What would be the point of it? If that's what you really are, it makes no sense. Why would you ever call the people that you got from Africa, why would they lose that title and be called Negro, colored, mulatto, black? Why would that happen? Because your identity is based on you being African. You were imported as an African. Why would it change? Make that make sense. Your grandparents didn't want to be called it. So now they're retrofitting all documents, all history, all historical books, all books about history with this title. All the Negroes are being called African. And Obama hastened that in by abolishing the term Negro and creating an African American museum so that everybody's identity as Negro, colored, mulatto, which connects you to being the American Indian, is erased. Yeah, that's because you're an Accomack Indian, Kimball Mack.
Yeah, that Obama thing it's really embarrassing to because I remember when he was running for president the first time. And if you ever been to Los Angeles and you're familiar with a boulevard called Crenshaw Boulevard, you know how long Crenshaw is. I mean, it goes for miles and miles and miles. I met a cat when Obama was running for president the first time, did backflips down a stretch of Crenshaw Boulevard because he said Obama winning the president was equivalent to the return of Jesus. This is how you know you have ASMSD. What? And somebody told him that. Imagine what his great grandfather, great grandmother would say if they knew he was doing stuff like this. This is why the ASMSD is real, y'all. This is not something that, I mean, you can see it every day, every podcast, every TV show, every radio talk. When you turn on that radio in the morning, I can't believe they say Steve Harvey is like almost 70. But I guess what's the guy who was the radio who retired, just retired?
Tom Joyner.
So he's Tom Joyner's replacement.
Right.
He is to keep you dumb. Because if you
Right.
listen to that shit that come on in the radio every morning, you gotta be kidding me. And
Yeah.
this is just a little radio. Think about how much money and time and effort and goes into keeping that going.
Yeah. That's right.
ASMSD, y'all, is
But
real.
it's so worth it because it keeps them on owning our stolen property. So it is friggin' it's worth it, man. It is worth all the effort. All the little bit of coins they throw at these coons is worth it. It is worth it. So worth it.
And you notice how they keep so those type people, those influencers, I call them influencers because that's what they are. I remember this is about 35 years ago. Oprah Winfrey was pushing this on the down low. I mean, pushing it. I mean, so sisters was going having book clubs, trips, cruises
Right.
to talk about this on the down low thing. Now, and this is what I mean about ASMSD. What was that supposed to? How was that supposed to help the community? How was that supposed to move them from where they were to where they wanted to go or where they envisioned themselves as being? How did that help? The Negro didn't care. They wanted to follow Oprah. So my question for now is, how is that going?
How is it going?
How was it going? What is that blew up into? Didn't you have Tyler Perry come out right after that?
Of course.
So when she say this is set up, this is how it's set up. These are the stages that it go in. It's just not put into your face because you'll reject it. Like, so when we say stuff and you ain't heard it for the first time, you reject it. But if you take a little time to think about it, you'll be like, God damn, that's right. So that's how they put it onto you. And I'm not saying everybody, but how many people today worship Oprah Winfrey? I'm talking full blown worship. What percentage of the population? I'm sure it's
Right.
not what it, I'm sure it's not what it was, before everybody saw her kissing Weinstein. But I mean, what is today? It's still significant today. I'm,
Right.
I'm sure it's not as significant as when everybody saw her dog out those Hawaiians
Mm.
in that Lahaina. But these are people like that, people who do things like that to the culture and to the indigenous people, they are worshipped, right or
They
wrong.
are. Oh yeah.
That's
Oh yeah.
that's ASMSD, y'all. This is real. This ain't no joke. And if it's not that, explain why it's not. And it's never explained. You know why it's never explained? Because they know it's true and they don't have no intentions of changing. They just keep going with it.
Facts.
That's most. I'm not saying it's all because it's definitely not all. You got some people who learn. That's why I say tell the truth. You got some people who learn and they be like, "Oh, I'm not doing that no more." They go another way. They take another road. Most people, oh, and you don't know what you're talking about. I ain't seen it. You know how it's done. This is ASMSD, y'all. This is how it's done. You can't be nothing but. You were trained to be that. And here's the training. Let me just give you an example of what I mean by training. Training. You're not, I don't just tell you to do something and you do it. You're not being trained. I have to emphasize over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's training you. So, how was that done? Okay, this is recent history. Let's take 1960. 1960, a movie called Raisin in the Sun hit. Now, if you can remember one of the main storylines, if you've ever watched that movie, if you've never seen it, don't waste your time. But if you never watched it before, one of the main focuses was on the sister hooking up with an African. Boom. So that's teaching your grandparents, your great grandparents that. Are hooking up with that, talking about how intelligent African men are, and blah, blah, blah. You're starting to train it. Then you go through the whole Black Panther phase. You're being trained every day in the schools with little, what are those things you do in school? To give presentations, the school assemblies in school. You do those, you're trained, you're being taught, you're giving handouts, paperwork. You never know books. You always notice this paperwork. So something that somebody can just whip up real quick. Teach you all that to the roots thing. Blah blah. You've been trained for damn near 2 generations. Just like that. This is what I mean. Time, our concept of time and their concept of time aren't the same. Then you go through the 80s, 90s, you got all the rap groups coming with wearing the African dashikis and the pendants and stuff. Your name changes. You go from black to African American. That's how you're trained. Then what happened? They bring in somebody who Barack Obama, African name, blah, blah, blah. You're being trained. Keeps going on, keeps going on. They bring somebody, they say, damn, we ain't even got to trick these shines no more. Let's bring in Kamala. She,
Ah, right.
right?
Right.
You're
Right.
being
They bring
trained.
A whole Hindustan who got pictures with her family, with the dot on her head, everything, wearing the sari, got footage of her saying that she's an Asian American, and people were ready to mow you down with a daggone train if you said something against her running for president. They rather have a Hindustan than have one of their own women. That is African slave mental stress disorder. You have been damaged. You are damaged. Our people are damaged. And you want to be, they owe for that. Because there's a lot of sick people going around calling themselves African Americans, declaring themselves slaves, and they're sick. They are miserably sick. And their sickness is robbing us and impairing an entire nation of people. You heard me. They're sick. They have African slave mental stress disorder. And that's why they cannot remove from themselves the fact that they're just slaves. I'm just a slave and everybody's better than us. But see, that's why they're against. That's why with this critical race theory, they're against any education that tells you about this. About the white cargo. About they were white and they were slaves. About colonialists and bondage. About being bound over. That's not supposed to be their start story. Because if that's their start story, how do you get up from that? But they can't wait to teach our little Negro children that in school, our little Indians, that they were slaves. Oh, they can't get it out there soon enough. Because it paralyzes you. And it causes that mental, African slave mental stress disorder that we're all suffering from to one degree or another.
And let me add this, because this lets you know how serious it is. So you see the boom with the people realizing that they're indigenous from America. They are Americans. They are soul people. They are rich soul people. You know, you got to break these words down as you did them, how they came up. What do they mean? What is being said is to control you. It's not what it is. You'll notice with all this indigenous jargon permeating throughout the culture now, why aren't your influencers talking about it? And if they do talk about it, it's something negative or something that's poppycock. Those are the Oprahs. Those are the people to keep you, to guide you somewhere else. None of your influencers know this. And guess what? And this is what I mean. This is more people than you think suffer from this. Check out the people who are going to get their entertainment and going to laugh and giggle and sniggle at that stuff. Check out the people that are listening to the Diddy stories and all that stuff. None of that stuff has nothing to do with your life.
Oh.
Nothing. But to waste your time. And you know what the cold part about it is? You with it. So, stop saying they did it to our people. No, you did it to yourselves.
Oh.
You never, this is what I'm saying. This is the man woman argument, this shit that's going on in the community now. It is stupid. And it's stupid. Why? Because both sides are stupid. Both sides are dumb. So people say, so people always talk about the slavery stuff, and questions are never given. If your people were slaves, why were your people fighting with the French? Some were fighting with the Spanish, some were fighting with the English, but you never banded up and fought together, only on a few instances. And that was put down real quick. You're in all these wars, but your people are in slavery. Explain that. They can't explain it. You know why they can't explain it? Because most of the time, nobody asks them. Notice the people who are giving interviews, they ask the dumbest ass questions. Don't ask nothing. If you are a slave, explain how are you in these wars? Because I'm thinking, this is just me. If my family's enslaved, I'm not going to fight nobody else but the ones that are enslaving my people. Doesn't that make sense? They telling you a slave, but you in all these wars. Dory Miller.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
about that? That makes some sense, right?
right.
You give
They
me a
can,
gun, motherfucker. The gun's gonna be aimed towards you.
right. That's African slave mental stress disorder. When you can take that and believe it. And if somebody, like I just did explain it to you, if somebody, I put the chat back in the chat box. Come and explain it. If you are a slave, explain how are you in all these wars, not helping your people who are enslaved. Answer that question. You know what? You won't. Ask all these cats who come up and talk fancy to you that. But you will still send them money, help build schools and all that shit.
How you an African free and daggone 3 to 5 years and never go back to Africa? Got money. How do you never, how does that work? I mean, it's magical, mystical, dumb thinking. It's magical, mystical, make believe thinking. Because why? We believe anything that comes from the mouth of someone other than our own people. Our parents, our grandparents says, we're from here. We always been from here. And we'd be like, yeah, okay. The professor and the teachers don't say that. The professors and the teachers tell us we slaves. We came from Africa, granddaddy.
So this is how we just this is how we just cured the dude from the ASMSD. Check this out. He really cured himself. So I said, man, just go ask your dad, ask your grandfather, grandmothers, where they're from, in America, how they got here and all this stuff. So he asked he got his aunt to act, it was his great grandfather, her grandfather. She said, Dad, could you tell this boy how you got here? Grandfather said, I got here on the buggy. That's what they called them back then, buggy carts and all that. He drove here. And the great grandson was like, oh, he don't know, like Lisa was just saying. The teacher told me this. The TV told me this. Everybody's talking about this. And then he said he thought about it. You got here by a horse and buggy. Yeah, he's always been here. That was telling you that. Don't you get it? And he said it took him the longest time to get it. Then he saw my book. Then he was like, God damn, that's right. He's telling the truth. He's from here. Dude, he didn't come on no boat. You have millions of Negroes believe that's their story to how they got here. Don't even question it. So he had to go through something really in life. He asked his grandfather. His grandfather told him, his great grandfather, I'm sorry. They're all the same. I just call him grandfather. His grandfather told him, I'm from here. And he said the fact that he didn't say where he came from cemented it. He could have came from anywhere, north, south, east, or west.
Facts.
You see? And then, like American Warriors said, and this is a cold piece, the Africans couldn't even fight to be taken from their homes. And you claim that's you? Don't you become what you claim to be? Don't your kids become what you tell them they are? Huh?
You know what? I can tell you for a fact, my grandparents didn't say whatever the teacher tells you, that's what's true. My parents didn't say whatever the teacher tells you, that's what's true. We as children took that in ourselves. We were taught to respect and that the teachers were learned and they knew things that our parents didn't know. That's the position that was placed in our mind. That's how our minds were controlled as 5-year-olds. Now it's 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds. Kids come out the womb and they fall into daycare. So our minds are being manipulated to believe these things. The books all teach this, are all on the same beat as far as we're all African Americans. We ain't even Negroes no more. We ain't blacks and we ain't colored. We're all Africans, according to what they want us to believe and what we're accepting. See, because we should be in the schools and in the daggone libraries and fighting back against this reclassification that's happening right in our faces. You can't make Booker T an African American. He ain't that. You can't make daggone Frederick Douglass an African American. He was never that. Stop reclassifying us in our face. Walter, and we said there, we knew about Walter Plecker. What the fuck? Walter Pleckering is happening right now in your fucking face. And you're co-signing on it because you ain't saying shit. You ain't saying nothing. Your kids bring home paperwork. It says African American. Oh, this and that was a great African American. Well, you ain't correcting that shit. You ain't writing to the board. You're not writing an email letter saying why are they being taught that this person in history was African American. They were never called that. Why are we using terms that aren't historically correct? I don't want you miseducating my child, my grandson, my granddaughter. Hey, Mike, you coming up?
May I retort?
Come on.
If you don't want your kids being miseducated, why send them to a place that miseducated you, miseducated your mom and dad? Why would you, if you don't want your kids miseducated, why would you send them directly to the place that miseducates them?
You know, this is the thing. This is the sad thing about it. I mean, like, I wish, you know, there are certain things you wish that your freaking children would do, right? You know? And I see that these people from other countries, whether they be Greek, whether they be Chinese, whether they be where's that country they just invaded? What is it?
Croatia,
Ukrainian.
right.
They're coming into this country. They don't even speak the language. And they're getting grant money to open up these charter schools. They hired their friends and their family. They're not even teachers. And we're sending our kids to those schools. Why? Because they got the right color skin that we like. What? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
We don't like it. Y'all do.
Anybody else's skin color than ours, and then we think that they're getting a better education, and these people can't speak English, don't know their own language well. They're not even educators, okay? And they're getting our government money that they collect from us to get rich, while we're sitting there struggling to make payments to keep them in school, to keep them in uniform, to supplement their daggone education. Meanwhile, we should be getting together and building our the system is there. We could have our own charter schools. You know, it pains me. I see my daughter, my daughter's friends, they don't like their jobs, they don't like what they're doing. I'm like, why don't they just get together and open a freaking school? That way they're spending time with their kids, they're learning from their kids, they're teaching their kids what they want them to learn. They know they're getting a quality education. You want to be around your kids anyway. You can get paid to do what you want to do. I can't take it. I mean, it's just like, come on now. I mean, it's like everything is there for it to happen. People, you know.
American Indian Star Strike said he went and tried to speak to the principal, and the principal said, "We ain't changing shit for your children." Now, see, so when my kids were in school, same thing, did the same thing he did. And what that does to the person, it spikes your blood pressure where you
You know, baby, guess what? You don't go to the principal. The principal ain't shit.
No, I don't. Well,
No,
I mean,
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the person with the message. You don't go to the principal. The principal ain't shit. Okay. The principal is somebody that wants to come up in the world, and he ain't shit. Okay. And yeah, the principal treats parents like they ain't shit. And that's a problem. But guess what? The principal don't care about how he treats you like shit until you make him care. And the way you make the principal care is that you take that principal, you take your message to him, you take the laws that apply to what he's supposed to be providing for your children, you send a nice email to the Board of Education and attach that principal to it. You send it to the Department of Education, the Superintendent of Schools, and the Board of Education. Everybody's got an email address that's public. And then see whether the principal cares. Try that out. Try that out, because I've had to do that. And I got in trouble, a lot of trouble. I got a lot of trouble, man, with my daughters and my son-in-law for doing it. But let me tell you, it is very effective, even though they'll never tell me, but they'll never admit it. But it is very effective. We can get principals to do what we want. We have the power. You just have to hit the right levers together. You got to have leverage against these mofos. Leverage. Everybody got a weak spot. Everybody got a boss. Find the boss and you find the weak spot. Right? See, sometimes the boss is the wife. Sometimes the boss is the superintendent. Sometimes the boss is the director. Sometimes the boss is the president. Sometimes the boss is headquarters somewhere in another state. But the trick is to find the weak spot. Find the boss. Go ahead.
well, African slave mental stress disorder. It's real, y'all. And I know you know people who have it. I would say emphasize them doing some genealogy. That normally gets you hooked in to who you are, because you start to realize that I come through these people. These people, I'm an extension of these people. These people are me. And who knows, one day I might have to come back through them again. So do your genealogy. So how Lisa just solved that problem about the principal, it wasn't nothing you have to think about it. You have to type in and search for. She just told you in under a minute. This is how we should be communicating with each other and not talking all that dumb shit you always hear us talking. Give the truth. Those who don't want to hear it, because most people don't like it. Most people, they've been trained to like to be lied to. We love it. Start talking straight to each other. Make sense. Stop talking about stuff that you heard somebody else say. No, you can figure it out yourself. You're intelligent. Your great grandfather had a third grade education, but was a genius.
Shit.
You don't know.
They got people that was inventing things that you don't even know. See, this is the thing. If you go beyond your great grandfather to your dad going sixth great grandfather, that person might have been a legislator. That person might have been a daggone teacher then, back in the 1800s, back in the 1700s. But you don't know if you don't look. You'll be like, dang, my ancestor was teaching back in the 1700s. What the world's going on here?
It's right at your fingertips, y'all.
Is
You are not what somebody else says you are.
Is Hampton coming on? Is he coming on? Is Michael? Where's
No.
Michael at? Oh, that's sad. Anyway, okay, you did change some things. Okay, there you go. That's what's up. But we have the ability to do a lot, especially if we work together. Especially once we get in, we start making those connections and using these connections and trusting our connectivity and trusting each other, right? That's when we're really going to make moves. That's why Tribe Up is real. You know what I mean? The power of being together under your one nation under a groove. You know, we really
get it on my good foot.
It's for real. That's what we need to be. We need to be one nation under a groove. That's right. And get on that good foot. We need to get together. Because this is the thing. We're supposed to be dead. Y'all, COVID was supposed to kill y'all. What the fuck are y'all still doing here? That should be our next show. COVID was supposed to kill y'all. What the hell y'all doing here? Because you're not supposed to be here.
Right.
You don't know that. You don't really know that. And that's the other thing that we are ignorant of, because we have African slave mental stress disorder. We don't know when the bullet is at your head. Wait, you saw COVID and you didn't know it was aimed to you. It was targeted to you. Because guess what happened, y'all? Started in Wuhan, China, right? And then the first people in Georgia to get it was in Macon, Georgia. And it was a Negro family at a funeral. Now, how does it get from Wuhan to a bunch of Negroes in Macon, Georgia? Make that make sense. Tell me that it didn't have a target. Tell me it didn't have a target. The interesting thing about you funny Indians is y'all didn't really get it like that. Y'all got sick, maybe. But even the old people, because I had people hitting me up on Facebook like, my daddy 88, he got the COVID, help me. And I'd be like, take this, do this, that. My daddy's better. Because we are damn people. With the magic bullet. They killed a hell of a lot of Hispanic. They killed a heck of a lot of daggone others. But not us. Not us. Even when they said it was us, it was like Dominicans, it was like others. It was Dominicans, it was some Haitians, it was others. Africans, it wasn't us. They were melanated, but they weren't us. But they called everybody that had melanin African Americans. For the numbers, for the fear tactics. Because once you believe you dying, you're going to die. And they tried real hard to make us believe we were dying. Oh, I'm sorry, I lost your singing voice. But anyway, basically, we're supposed to be gone. We dodged that bullet, and now they don't know what to do. Because now, y'all jerks took the time off with the COVID to work on figuring yourself out, learning a little bit about self, doing a little research, watching things you don't normally watch. And now you are under the very well researched and thoroughly logical impression that you are indigenous to America. You are the American Indian. And that logical deduction is growing by leaps and bounds at this time. You got all kinds of new TikToks. I'm American Indian. Yeah, I am American Indian. This is my country. You got that going on by leaps and bounds. And think about it. They're filtering it. So think about all the stuff we ain't seeing that's being done, right? Think about the number of people that really are making material and talking about this that we don't see because it's so shadow banned. People don't know about even us talking on the internet because they shadow ban it. Think about how big it really is, y'all. It's really big. What they gonna do? What they gonna do?
One nation.
One
So that's what I'm
nation
saying.
under a groove. Yes. So they need to understand that we're about to be that one nation under a groove. And it's getting too late for them to do anything. They can't do anything. They don't know what to do. But jail Lisa Cypress. They really didn't do that. It's really not an arrest. It is an indictment, which is like they got a secret jury together. They got a secret jury, y'all, grand jury, and said, can we lock her up? And they said, yeah, we can. Can you? Can we? Nah, they had to break laws to do what they're doing. They are breaking laws to do what they're doing. But it was worth it because they thought they were scared the pants off of me and it'd be over in a damn month. They didn't know they're going almost a damn year later. I have no signs of giving out and I won't because this shit ain't never going to end. And I told them this is not going to end until we win. And we're going to win. And it's going to be painful. Painful for these people. Because they ain't used to losing. And they're fragile anyway. But a daggone criminal has to go down. And you know what? Some people need to go to that jail. I'm hoping about 6 or 7 of them go to jail with their RICO asses. That's real RICO. What they're doing to me, that's real RICO. It's racketeering. Interstate, daggone real estate, harassment, fraud, deception, tax fraud. They're doing all kinds of daggone illegal stuff on the Eastern Shore of Virginia. And it transmits through several states. They are criminals. They be the criminals. But you got to understand that it's that time. It's that time to get real. It's that time to shake off that African slave mental stress disorder. You got to get well. You got to get healthy. Some people ain't going to get well. Some people ain't going to get healthy. Some people will perish with the disease. That'll just be part of our daggone claim against the daggone United States, though, because we've lost so many people to this disorder. And it's a horrible thing. It's a nasty death. It's a bad way to go.
So yeah, when you show people this right here, they, and show images, show people things too. That helps them that helps cure them of ASMSD. It helped show them old images, money. This is your money system. These people didn't bring money with them. The king pimped their ass. They came over here to what you were doing, but this is not you. You was over in Africa doing what they were doing. And when we ask you what were they doing over there, the African American never knows.
The Africans don't know. They don't know nothing about themselves. They don't know a damn thing about themselves. Don't let them fool you. They don't have no history. They don't have no records. They ain't got no birth records. They ain't got nothing. They actually now know more about us than they know about themselves. That's a fact.
You see, guys, this stuff is right in your face. And we don't want to see it. We won't even look at it because we believe in the stories and the fairy tales that we have been trained to believe.
I
So
want
go
y'all
back.
to think about it. Think about this thing, because this man was the first one that brought out this money thing to my attention, right? I want you to really think about it. Why would Richmond, Virginia have on their Confederate money of $10 Negroes, Negroid Indians. Why?
I don't know.
Why would Alabama? Why would all these southern states have money with Negroes on them? Who is making the money? Who's in the legislature? See, when Pan Africans don't, shut their eyes to the fact of who was in the legislature in 1871, and they don't want to think about who was on the money in 1861. They don't want to think about these things. Why? Because they don't want to think. Do they not want to think? I don't know. Do they not want to? They don't want. They don't want to question what they believe, and they don't want to know that what they believe was given to them by an oppressor who has a vested interest in keeping you off of their land. They don't want to know that. Where do you think that is, Gary? Why do you think? What is this blind resistance about?
You want to know what I really think?
Oh, I
really think, because you got to remember,
would love
this is the United States. The United States is in us.
Oh yeah,
So
that's not us.
so a lot of these cats who be Greek and Hebrew Israelites and whatever, I really think that they are who they are. They're who they are. We're just fighting. I'm not fighting against them. You're a Greek. You be that. But please don't try to come up here talking like us, because you're not. You're Greek.
No,
And I think that's where a lot of these people who you think are you, or they're not. They came with those people. I asked this question the other night. Remember in school that they taught us that there are 7 continents?
Okay, yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
Actually, how was North America and South America 2 continents? They're connected,
Mm-hmm.
unless you want to call that Panama Canal thing where they separated, but it's 1 continent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Those people, those people come up, I'm sure the indigenous people of America just didn't stay in Virginia, or they just didn't stay in Alabama. I'm sure they traveled all over, wherever they could walk, wherever they could take a boat to real close. This is America.
This is America.
This is America. And some of those people, and some of those people that call themselves Moors, Hebrew Israel, that's what they are. That's what they act like. That's what they do.
Yeah.
I think we just have to,
See them for what they are.
yeah, exactly.
See them
They're
for
not
what they really are. They're
right.
not lying about that. But see, the thing is, they try to act like they're the Indians now. That's what they're doing now. But see, this is what's really silly, because the people that are coming to this information fast and furiously at this time wasn't around when the Moors were like, yeah, you don't know yourself. Yeah, and denying the Indian being an Indian. But now the Moors are like, yeah, this is more land. We're Indians. Oh, really?
They've
Now
been
you're the
trained.
Indian.
They've been trained to be how they are. When they open their yap to speak,
They're
you are
colonizers. They're part of the
right,
American
right,
Colonization Association. They
right,
are a branch. They are a
right.
branch, just like they're going Pan Africans. Just consider it a branch of the American Colonization Association. They are colonizing the Indian country. That's what they're doing.
That don't think that they're you. They're what they say they are. So do you
That
think when do you think when these people came over here, the Indians introduced themselves as Choctaw? Do you think when these people came over here that these people introduced themselves after name that they ultimately began to be called? No. These people introduced themselves of who they were.
mm,
And most of your ancestors left their imprint. This is why we say do a genealogy.
yep.
You're still connected to those people. But many of you don't, and I understand of many Christians. My family's full of them. They don't know nothing. And when you ask them, they get mad at you because you're asking the question.
That's right.
Many of us have been trained away from ourselves. I get that. But some of you guys, you are what you say you are. Are there Moors to come over here and try to usurp Indians? Of course they are. Those are the ones who Lisa's talking about, trying to lie to you and trick you. Brother, we all the same. No, we not. All these cats that's Greek, they worship Greek mythology. They don't worship, they're not into what their people said. They don't do genealogies of themselves and go back on what they said. They follow what the Greeks tell them to do. Can I get a witness?
Let's get a witness,
This
baby.
is what they do. Don't go about what somebody says. Isn't that what you say? Show me. Show me. You can say you're going to give me something, but until you give it to me, it's not done. This is the kind of stuff we got to start recognizing. Because if not, listen to these cats that they talking. You're going to be in the same spot 50 years down the road. Your grandkids going to be in the same spot because you
Make,
won't tell the truth.
make it make
Tell these
sense.
kids the truth. Tell these kids the truth, man. Like I said, they're going to be in the same spot. And you're a part of that. Remember that. Do a simple genealogy on yourself is not hard. Just follow the mama's back, the daddy's mama's back, and you're going to get there. Everybody has a mama. Well, not everybody, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
everybody has a mama. You may not know her, but everybody has one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, everybody does. But and if it's a problem of knowing her, that's when DNA does help, because then you can connect to people that may share your true DNA as a person to person match, not as a continent, person to continent, or to state of New Jersey match. That's not possible. But you can match with others, right? True people that exist, and find your family. But this is the thing. So, how do we actually get to the point where we make believe that you just got freed from slavery and now you sitting up there with your chest out and bow ties on as the first members of Congress, and less than 6 years after? Can can wait? Huh? Huh? How does that even happen? That don't make no sense. You see how we magically make things fit a scenario that we're taught? Oh, yeah. This is the first black members of Congress. Yeah, we were slaves, chattel slaves. We couldn't read or write or learn anything. But yeah, the first Congress happened. I read it with Reconstruction. There was real fast Reconstruction. Like, whoa, Reconstruction, zoom, like that. Come on.
And this is what the majority of us are trained to believe.
Absolutely, they do. Because
And so,
yeah, we don't want to think. Go ahead. You go ahead. I'm just going to put up
no,
Kimberly's.
no, no,
Go ahead.
no.
I'm
This,
done. I'm
this is
done. Go ahead.
we don't even come on, y'all. Come on. This is right in your face.
Mm.
What are these men shown like today on in social media all over the public? What is this image put in the face state? Isn't it the image that is put in mainstream United States media every day? all the powerful white men. Blah, 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 blah. Who are those people? Those people could be your relatives. You wouldn't even know it because you won't do a simple genealogy on yourself. One of these could be your grandmother's brother. One of these could be your aunt's husband. When I say aunt, I don't mean aunts today. You got great aunts, grand aunt. You're connected.
This
You're
might,
you're
this is more likely your family. I mean, this is the thing. It's got to be somebody's family.
right.
Why shouldn't it be your family? You haven't looked, so you don't know. So you're sitting up here thinking that you're a chattel slave. Meanwhile, your dad going great uncle, great uncle was one of the first black members of Congress. Dang. Too bad you didn't know. Too bad you think you're some African chattel. Too bad you think you was just from a descendant of slave. Hell, you might just deny being related to him just because you want so badly to be that chattel slavery person.
So Tebe says, are they Masons? Okay. So this is what I do to Masons, because I'm sure they were.
Yeah, me too.
But this is the thing about the Masons.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to answer in the affirmative. And when they answer in the affirmative, you have all you need to know. You know, they're going to like I said earlier, the language of the Negro is lie. So this is what you ask the Mason. So say, hey man, I know you guys are descended from Prince Hall. And he went over to Scotland to become a Mason. Question. Was he hazed over in Scotland? They're not going to answer, but you know damn well he was. And you know what they do to you when they haze you. Once you know that, not believe it, I heard, once you know that, you'll act accordingly. Like you said, a lot of us joined other nations to fight against us. Remember that. A lot of us left their parents, their families, to join other people's army to fight against their own parents. So that's what I'm saying. When we say somebody did something to us, let's stop playing. Because if you never admit what you've done, you never solve the problem. A lot of us today go over to other countries and fight for other people that have nothing to do with you. You send a lot of your sons and daughters to do that.
Okay. Yep.
So remember this. Always think about your input into everything. You'll solve problems a lot quicker. Okay, Lisa, I'm out.
You're out.
Out.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing about this, thank you for joining and or being here, but I gotta finish, so I'm gonna keep on going. And what I need to let you guys know is where this all has what we can do about it, because we always like to have the solutions, not just the problems. Like, let's come with the solutions as well. We gotta come with that, because that's what we do. We don't want to just be talking about what the problem is. Okay. So when we look at, first of all, the fact that it wasn't true. The majority of slaves, we have white slavery in large numbers, and the white slavery continued all the way into the 1900s. Understand that a lot of these people that came in all through what is it called? Guys, came in through New York, through the port. They were slaves. They were slaves. A lot of these people were made to work in factories, made to work on farms, made to work going into places that they had. Ellis Island, thank you. Thank you, Charles Johnson. Yes, Ellis Island. These people were slaves. Slavery for white folks continued into the 1900s. Understand that. When you understand how they were really treated, how their contracts really worked, there were Italian, Jewish, Irish, Scottish slaves. That's what happened. And it continued into the 1900s. And poverty, it didn't work out for them, right? Yeah, it wasn't a milk and honey. There was a lot of poverty. Government programs, handouts came into being not because the indigenous people needed it, but because the immigrants were brought here and they couldn't make a go of things, even with a hand up, even with a work release program, even with a sharecropping. Thank you, Charles. Same to you. They weren't able to make a win. And that's why they had to have government handouts such as welfare, food stamps, food programs. It wasn't for the indigenous people. It was for the poor immigrants that came from poverty there and nothing there, hoping to get something here. And they took from the Indians the resources, the money they made off of us, like they do all the time, and give it to them. Just like it's happening with the Ukrainians and the Africans and the Hispanics that are coming into our country now. The immigrants are given a handout, and it's taken out of the mouths and pockets of the indigenous Indians. That's just how it is. That's what they do. We have to see the truth for what it is, because if you don't see the truth for what it is, then you're a victim of this disorder, and you don't want to be, a victim of this disorder. You don't want to be a victim of this disorder. It is not a good thing. You want to be aware of what is happening. Hey, are you there, Carrie? Carrie.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, add to it since you're still here.
I was doing something. What were you talking about?
I was just talking about Ellis Island and how these white slavery continued into the 1900s. It didn't. White slavery did not end. It continued.
It's continuing into 2000s.
Thank you.
It's like what I say about time. We think time is something, a snapshot like into the 1940s. You don't think what they have planned in the 40s aren't going on to this day? How do you think they keep you confused?
Right.
Upside down. Disconnect you from your environment. You don't walk on the grass no more. You walk on concrete now. You don't listen to the wind. You listen to music now. You don't eat the animals that you cultivate. Meat can come from China. You eat it like you never ate nothing before in your life. You have been changed. You have been morphed into something else. You were morphed. The morphing went on when they changed you to black. When they changed those people that you see on the picture in the Congress, what were those men referred to in that day? They weren't called black. They were called something else, whatever the name was that the people were called, freemen, whatever. I don't know, because they change your identity so much to confuse you. That's all it is. You're being confused. Now, this is why I love Lisa so much, because she just normally puts me in my place because this is my take on it. These motherfuckers don't want to get it. Let them go. Because I think we're wasting time and energy sharing this information. Because damn. And I know we're being shadow banned and all this, but you can't even give it. You can't. Dang. We're helping you and you dog us. I don't like it. You know, common sense stuff your mama would tell you. And you with no support, you go support Umar Johnson, won't you? This is where we are. So this is what I mean talking up from ASMSD. Come on, y'all. Damn. Aren't we supposed to be what our ancestors were? Aren't we the soul people? Aren't we connected to this? That's why everybody come here, because we're connected to the earth and they usurping everything from the earth through us because we don't know who we are. Is that simple enough to understand? Is that simple enough to understand? And you have all these, especially the civil rights group, they done dogged us out enough. Later for them. But the children of those people, this the way y'all gonna go out?
The thing that kind of sparked this conversation was, I was watching some documentary, just kind of really not fully watching it, just like sort of watching it. And I got through like couple of minutes of it, and I was like, oh man, we use magical thinking to make our ideas fit into the colonizers' history, right? We make everything fit it. We retrofit everything. Check this out. So I didn't know anything about this. I shared it with somebody from Louisiana. I really don't typically talk about territories that aren't mine, but it's what it is. What's interesting about it is not necessarily Louisiana based. What is interesting about it is what we do, how far we go to make things make sense to us when they don't, just because we want to believe what the almighty master race has taught us. And you want to call, isn't that awful to say a master race? But that's the way you're acting, like you believe that. So I'm going to say it because it's sickening, and that's the way folks act. That's not what I'm sharing. What am I sharing? Sharing this. Okay. Oh, really? That's not the one I'm supposed to be sharing. This one.
American Legacy Network remembers Black tea houses. February 15th. It's not a national holiday, but to some in the Black community, it marks a popular day of giving and community. On Valentine's Day, slave masters in New Orleans would host parties, and sometimes slaves were given leftovers and broken china. The day after would usually be a lighter workload, and those slaves initiated a tradition around their day of rest. So during the 18th century, tea ceremonies were created during the final decades before emancipation.
The women would take the teacup, give it to the man of the house. The man of the house would walk around where all the slaves would live and offer a teacup to them to kind of signal and let them know that his house or his household, his home, was going to be offering a tea ceremony event.
In the 1930s and 40s, affluent Blacks became entrepreneurs by opening tea houses and offering safe places for community members to host events. Tea house owners offered exclusive services and tended to those in higher social classes than the average restaurant owner. They hosted groups like the...
All right, so... Where is that thing? Oh, no, not that. I just wanted to stop on that. One of these images here. No, not that one. Oh my God. Won't stay on this tea party. I can't. Anyway, it just won't stay on it. But anyway, this is my point. My point is this. Did you hear her talking about that ridiculous story about the master coming out with a broken tea thing? And that's how we start. When you research tea houses in Louisiana, you know what you find out? That them shit's been around since like 1700. Like, what it says about Louisiana is that prior to 1803, Louisiana had tea houses and all kinds of businesses the Negroes had. They had everything. But to hear that damn coon talk, I'm sorry. But she was like, yeah, the master came around with a teacup, because we fix our mind around this mythical master race thinking. It's master race thinking. It is African slave mental stress disorder. You are worshiping a master race that ain't you. And they ain't master. But you make everything fit into that way of thinking in that scenario, and it is a sickness. This woman talking like the random man plantation in the 18th. You girl, y'all had businesses in the 1700s. Y'all had tea houses in the 1700s. You're talking about the ones that existed in 1930s and 40s. Did you not look into the fact that y'all had businesses that were thriving in the 1700s? Did you not? No, why didn't they look back at that? Because they believe what the master race told them. And that's that y'all were slaves, then you couldn't have had nothing. So why would I look for something like that? Why forever would I look for something like that when I knows that I'd be a slave? Wow. That's what motivated me to start looking at, yes, for my cut lips, a broken teacup. I'm just saying, what in the world, what? It's a disorder. You see all that grandeur and fancy falutin stuff that was going on. And then you think, well, we were doing tea houses and stuff since the 1700s. Whose holiday really is Valentine's Day? Who's zooming who? What did they actually do but take our indigenous celebration and turn it into Valentine's Day on the day before? What really is true? Because the fact that there were tea houses in Louisiana in the 1700s, and this woman's talking about 1930, 1940, and the master walked around with a broken teacup saying it was time. What the world? They believe anything that these daggone Ku Kluxers put out of their mouths. They believe it all. And will fight you for going against it. What are we going to do with these people? Like Carrie said, let them go. Let them go, I guess. What, Carrie, you still there? I don't think he's still there. He popped it in and out. So, here's the thing. Here's another thing. This is my other thing about talking about this whole situation is, okay. The Anthony Johnson thing. Anthony Johnson's existence, which he was an Accomack Indian, no question. Why do you know he's an Accomack Indian? Because there was a Johnson that was a friggin' chief. Because the queen of Virginia, the Indians, the queen anthropologist, the top anthropologist for Virginia Indians, Helen Roundtree, said Johnson was an Indian name. Anthony Johnson, you don't come from Africa and change your name to Anthony Johnson. What would be the impetus to do that? Why would that even happen? And you're only indentured for 5 years. Why would you change your whole name? Make it make sense. What would be the purpose? See, because Anthony Johnson, they say, see, this is the thing that happened to their freaking whole transatlantic slave lie. This court record exists, and others exist in Northampton County, Virginia, which is where the Accomacs are. That's where our main village is located. Our main town, our headquarters, the headquarters of the Powhatan Confederacy, is where the oldest court records are in the nation. Anthony Johnson makes the whole transatlantic slave trade look ridiculous. Because you have to imagine that this guy went from being African to being Spanish. Because the only Anthony that they say came was named Antonio. And actually there's no record of any 1619 anyway. So that's all fraud anyway. But even let's say that there was a 1619, they're trying to make that Anthony this Anthony. And if that Anthony was this Anthony, he was a whole Antonio that changed it to an Anthony. And then he got the last name Johnson. Okay, right. And Johnsons are the name of the Indians on the Eastern Shore. Anthony Johnson makes a transatlantic slave trade, utterly and completely illogical. Why? Because the fact of the matter is, Anthony Johnson was one of the wealthiest people, and as early as 1655. Hell, we were having Anglo-Indian wars into the 1622s, and they said that Anthony Johnson almost got killed in an Anglo-Indian war. Why would an African be in an Anglo-Indian war, y'all? Why would Anthony Johnson be in an Anglo-Indian war? And why would the name Johnson, which is the name of Accomack Indians? I'm just waiting to figure this out. Why would they go? Okay, let me tell you. It is a fact. Oh, did I lose that slide? No, I didn't. In the story of Anthony Johnson was sued by his former slave for keeping him too long in indentureship. And then Anthony Johnson sued to keep him forever. These people were in court sparring professionally, right? But they're supposed to be recent transplants from Africa who didn't know the language, didn't know the customs, didn't know the laws, didn't know how to farm, was sick and half dead, didn't have no interpreters, but yet in record time, they were litigating in court and doing everything. And you're so wealthy, but yet you don't go back to visit nobody or bring nobody from Africa. Or import even the food that you miss from your homeland. Yeah, right. So this court record is a red flag, a glaring red flag, and to the lie that they tell about transatlantic. They try to say he's from Angola. He's from Angola. He's from Dahomey. Dahomey? Yeah, and he became richer than the white folks. The white folks came here and they were starving, if they were even white. But the initial people were starving and eating corpses. So he came here and just zoomed through, right? Fascinating. So anyway, what ended up happening, and they stood up there and said that this guy became a forever slave, but no. y'all can hear me. Yeah. Hey, are you still there, Carrie?
Yes.
How did I get thrown off the Zoom? That was weird.
Proceed.
Thank you for being there. Anyway, so Anthony Johnson, these people, like, this was okay. The whole story of a transatlantic slave trade predicates on the fact that we were brought here in bondage and chains and were forever slaves, chattel, just pieces of chattel, like cattle, just objects to just use and abuse, right? Well, this doesn't coincide with that scenario. First of all, you got to understand that this shows that not only was it a very temporary situation, but this brother, Kesar, knew the laws that applied to him and was like, oh, you had me working for you too long. Oh, no, ninja, you ain't doing that. You ain't doing that. So he knew the laws that applied. It shows that this has been in existence for a while for every common person to know how it rolls, to know how the courts roll, to know how to represent. And Anthony Johnson actually did not keep him as a forever slave. He actually let him go. It was an issue that the guy was trying to slip slide and work for somebody else, and he got offended about the moves that the dude was making. That's why it was a problem for him. That's why he really got pissed about it. But from what I've researched, that was not, he did not keep Kesar forever. He did not do that. But look, Anthony Johnson, you need to understand that from 1619 England was experiencing an economic crisis, a money shortage. They didn't have money. They was broke from 1619 to 1623. And they had wars in England and Europe, and they was warring with the Anglo-Powhatan War here. They didn't have no resources to go. The money that it takes to go to Africa to get the ship, to build a ship that would accommodate all these people, to stock the ship, to go to Africa, to bring them to America, and today's money would be just multiple millions of dollars to just finance that shit. Where's the where are you going to get that money back? Where's the fiscal responsibility? Where's the feasibility fiscally that it would make sense that you only working for 3 to 7 years? You get them to America half dead, don't know the language, unwell, don't know how to do the work. You got to train them. You got to get them to understand what you're saying. How long does that take? And then you only working them for 3 to 7 years? And then when they get done with it, they can sue you? Can you explain this to make this make sense to me? They weren't not this story, just this story, but there are numerous records in Northampton County of the oldest continuous court records that tell you that the slaves, the so-called Negro slaves, were temporaries. They were temps. And these masters want you to be, this master race that the African American finds so beloved, want you to believe, yes, Lord, and that they did bring you as a temporary servant all the way from Africa. That means that they tracked all the way from England down to Africa in a boat in voyage that cost multi-millions of dollars to do so, just so they could let you go, so you could sue them for goods and services, or goods owed to them for the services you gave, and be free and make more money than the slave master. because the gentleman sitting in the court with the brown on, Anthony Johnson, was one of the richest people. He was the richest person in the county. So you made more than your master? And they kept doing it? Like they continued the slave importing? With this being the scenario? Anthony Johnson, this is not just the other court case, Moore versus White, it's the same thing. The former slave sues the daggone master. Anthony Johnson sitting up there. Kazar sitting next to him. Kazar got just as much right to be standing up for himself and knows how to do it. Anthony Johnson is the richest daggone mother sucker in the county. He got more money than his former master. You gonna tell me this is African transatlantic slavery at work? Somebody's missing us. Somebody messed up. Somebody messed up. If that's how it works. And that's that magical, mystical way of thinking that you believe things that don't make sense. And it's like back in the day when your parents didn't want you questioning them because I said so and I'm the master. That's the way we treat these oppressors. That's the way we treat this Ku Klux Klan education. Because they said so. Don't you question it. They don't need to ride in on horses with daggone hoods on. They got our minds. They got our mind control. We got to stop this, y'all. This don't make no sense to be this manipulated that everything we take in, we're trying to make it fit the scenario that they taught us. And it don't make no sense. Johnson was in court getting his own slave to be announced to be a forever slave after he was brought here. And that's the American history and fact, the true American history. But what they tell you is that you were born here as chattel. But Anthony Johnson don't tell you that. And nowhere does it call Anthony Johnson African. Nowhere is it recorded that he's African. Nowhere is it recorded that the Negro was African. They just say so. They just say so. Just like right now, they say Frederick Douglass is African. Are y'all feeling this? Are you getting it? Are you feeling it? Woo. Let's go. Last one. I just want to let you know. Oh, not that one. We got to know. Where's my slide? Okay. Sorry, y'all. Oh, that's not it. So sorry. You know, we got to know exactly what is real and what is not, and stop allowing people to tell us to make decisions for us, right? That's the one I need to get. Okay, so this is what it is. When it's a true story, it actually has real ramifications, real life ramifications. When it's a fake story, there is no reality that you can tie to it because it's all fake. The real Indians have money and land. The real Indians have money and land. We just don't know it. What they did was in 1787 on the Eastern Shore, the land of Anthony Johnson, King Powhatan, and all those people that are called Accomacs. They got sick of these free Negroes in the Eastern Shore of Virginia. They got sick of them. They came here as slaves. and they weren't being given the opportunity. They weren't able to rise up and be rich like they dreamed of, because the Indians still had everything. There were a bunch of Anthony Johnsons around, and that life would continue for a very long time. See, our level of success is what the lie is. Historically, they make you think that you were losing and you were broke and you were the slaves. But the actual record showed that you was owning businesses and thriving and winning. And your towns had to be destroyed and your businesses had to be destroyed all over the country because they wanted you gone and they wanted your success gone. So in 1887, they were so sick of these wealthy Eastern Shore Accomack Indians that they collected $1,500, and that's on the Gingaskin. You know, like there are people that do records about the Gingaskin Indians online, and they talk about it. I only knew that they collected $15,000 because they wanted to send us to Africa. They wanted to send us to Africa because they didn't know what to do with these free Indians, these free Negroes, these free colored. But I didn't know it was true. I didn't know it happened. Because the way they teach it, they collected the money. They don't say that they did anything about it. And since my family's still there, I figured, well, they just collected the money and never did anything. But then these people on the left of this picture contacted me. They said, yo, we're your people. We have people that come from your people. I said, huh? They said, yeah. In the Book of Negroes, it tells a story of how the Accomack Indians were removed and sent to Nova Scotia. I said, huh? They said, yeah, we those people because, well, some of us are those people. Some of us are indigenous to the territory here. But some of us are your relatives. Now, I'm doing genealogy, and I know some of our surnames have vanished from the Eastern Shore. And I was curious about what, exile that was, that why certain names are just there back in the 1600s, early 1700s, and not so much in the 1800s. Well, there you go. Those people were removed to Nova Scotia. But it didn't stop there. See, that was a real devious plan. Because when they sent them to Nova Scotia, we was cold and stuff. Now, let me tell you how this all happened. This is how they devised doing this. This is 1787, mind you. Post-Revolutionary War. People was standing on both sides. We thought it was a real war. We thought it was them, the English against the daggone immigrants. But the immigrants and the English were on the same team. The enemy was the Indians because they wanted this territory. They wanted this country. We didn't know. We thought their fight was real. So some of us sided with England, and we were called loyalists. The ones that sided with England, a lot of us, and England acted like they were really. See, they do the same thing as we see in politics. The one political party acts like they're your friend. The other one acts like they're not your friend. That same game is being played with the Indian today. The Revolutionary War was the first example of it. The England versus the daggone immigrants. And the immigrants and the England were friends the whole time. Just like the Democrats and the Republicans are friends the whole time. Understand the game, y'all. Get the game. Wake up. So we sided. We fought with the England, and then guess what they said? You're a loyalist. I fear that you guys are in danger. Our intel, our sources, our spies tell us that you all remaining in this country where you are at is dangerous. We want to protect you. We're your friends. We're going to take you to safety before we leave this country. You understand this? You see how the truth vibrates in your heart? You see how the truth makes sense? That's the difference between these bogus lies that they teach us. So they took many of us who were designated as loyalists to Nova Scotia. It was cold as hell. We were from Virginia, and Virginia was warmer in the past than it is now. We had tropical trees and shit in Virginia. Okay? Oh my God, it's cold here. What the hell? No, this ain't working. What the world? Can we go back? Oh my God. Oh, well, we're going to take you somewhere warm. We got this. They get Cubby. What's his name? Paul Cuffey, the Negro Indian. Another one that works for the colonizers. Another one who's a part of the American Colonization Society. He worked for them then. There are people working for it now. Believe it. Paul Cuffey. He said, yeah, don't worry, I'm your captain. I'm the captain of this vessel. Oh, everybody felt cool. Oh, cool, bro. Yeah, you an Indian too? Yeah, I'm a Negro. Yeah. Okay, bro. Yeah. Okay, where are you taking us? You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Took my ancestors to Sierra Leone. We didn't know it. I didn't know it. The people from Nova Scotia, they taught us. They told us. I was like, dang. Went to Nova Scotia, went to the graveyards, met the people. You could feel the family. You could see the names. You could see the faces. You could see the faces. You could see the energy and the anger of the racism up there. The same kind of intensity that we have on the Eastern Shore, they are living around, even worse than the Eastern Shore in Nova Scotia. Why? Because they are in fear of these Indians. Because of greed, baby, greed. Land greed makes people act funny. People do something strange for a little change. So these people, we had a wonderful time. We hung out. We toured everything. We learned. We listened. We shared. These are our disconnected kinfolk, our cousins, our people. History is real when you work it. The truth comes out when you make real moves. If you are involved with an indigenous association or society, you're not gonna make things like this ain't happening in your life because they ain't your people, and you're not on that trajectory where you're gonna connect with the true history of your ancestors in the right way. And along with the true history of the ancestors are those patents that connect to your true identity as Accomack Indian. You're not going to find that either because you're playing a game of being a urban Indian, which is another way to dissuade the Indian from claiming his true identity and full identity and rights. It's a detour on the road to real repatriation and real rights and benefits. It's a detour that the people in the American Colonization Society put you on. Another detour is saying, why don't you become a native? Natives are created by the U.S. government. They get whatever the U.S. government says they can get. And how the hell are you a real Indian and you letting this daggone demonic government dictate to you? Why would you want that if you're a real Indian with real rights, standing on your own daggone territory and your own daggone power as the true indigenous people, why would you compromise yourself to be a dependent? Because that's what recognized Indians are. They're dependents of the United States government. They're dependents. You are subordinate. They put in writing that you are sovereign. They ain't fucking sovereign. They'll give you a grant for $1 million and take that shit back. You might have built a school or whatever. You owe them. Now you in debt to the government. That's the way it works. And I've seen it happen. I'm not just talking. I'm talking real deal. I know that happened to the Alcoholics. Kicked them in the ass. That's a white nation. That's a white so-called people supposed to be connected to the Achamat, supposed to be Achamat, really. And they took their money back. The federal government said, pay us back. Now you're in debt. Oh, that's how you create debt bondage. That's because you're a dependent. And you take what they want. They take what they want from you and give what they want to you. And they control you. And that's why they want to make the Achamat federally recognized. They keep telling me, why don't you seek federal recognition so you can control our asses? What authority? I haven't recognized the U.S. government. We have not recognized the U.S. government. How can you exist? How can you exist? You ain't recognized. Who should be recognizing who in this territory? How dare you? Oh yeah, tell me about it. The African Nova Scotia thing, American Warrior, is so intense that they get like, if you want to say I'm an African Nova Scotian and study that stuff, or say you want to be a professor of African Nova Scotian history, baby, they will cut every check. You go to school absolutely free. They will pay for your room and board if you declare yourself African Nova Scotia. If you declare yourself African Nova Scotia, you'll get grant money to build a whole daggone museum. They are heavily financing the whole African Nova Scotian identity. Oh yeah, it's crazier than it is here. And then of course, so because there's money involved, these African Nova Scotians want to slam down our cousins that are the real Indians or know themselves to be the real Indians and are standing on their daggone identity. Oh, they want them down in the ground. Yep. Oh, American Warrior, you ain't nothing. You told the absolute. That's the real. Timing, begging, pleading, cooning. They doing all that. That is, and it's worldwide to wipe us out. Absolutely it is, American Warrior. Absolutely. But see, that's the thing. We have this real connection. We have all this injury. And guess what? For the Acamats, it didn't just happen one time that they removed us. They removed us again. In the 1800s, they removed us to daggone Liberia out of Portsmouth. And that was, I'm sorry, not 1800s. It was like the 1900s. Was it the early 1900s? I don't know, whatever. They removed us to Liberia out of Portsmouth. And let me tell you something. Our injuries, what they owe the Acamats, and how big are the Acamats? Because y'all think the Acamats just Virginia, but the Acamats go all the way up to Canada and down to Alabama. They don't include South Carolina, but they include Georgia. They include North Carolina. They go all the way out to Chicago. They go all the way through Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland. The Accomack territory is vast, and it encompasses a lot because it's not just a confederacy. It's like, it's a confederacy. So it encompasses a lot of nations, but that gives us a lot of power. And that gives us we already have the power to unite because it's already created. We just got to know who we are. We just got to step in. And so that's why, we're building classes to rebuild your nation, because we want everybody to claim their patents, because we had a chief that actually patented everything. And they got that chief. They're saying that chief is in North Carolina. That chief is not a North Carolina chief. He's a Virginia chief, because when he was chief in the 1600s, North Carolina was Virginia. And our chief Thing Gina, he patented things all the way in Chicago, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maine, Canada, down to Ohio, all the way. Where are the people? I'm waiting for y'all. Let's get this. Let's get it. It belongs to us. We have the infrastructure. Our ancestors created it. It's time to just step in your role. I'm looking for the Chiefs. Where y'all at? Let's go. Let's go. We cannot continue to be like our fallen brothers and sisters, because they gone. They gone. We can't help them. They are under the control of this terrible disorder. They can't help themselves. Like, for real. They can't help it. They are under African slave mental stress disorder. And they're not ready to change. Yeah, okay, yeah. They did a new film about Book of Negroes. They're supposed to be doing a newer one. Did that one come out? But it's not true, because see, the Book of Negroes is not like a literal Book of Negroes. It's records about the Negroes, right? It's like it's a series of records, okay, about us, and largely about, like I said, the Yakima, because we're those people. And then also Lionel George, American Warrior, Bam, everybody who's in the chat, and everybody's out there listening. The other thing we found out, we went to Port Royal, and there's a whole plaque that says the Virginians came here. And I was like, we came there and burnt down Port Royal. And the woman at the visitor center said, "Oh, you're the Acrobats? Please don't burn our buildings down and take our windows." We took their windows and we burnt their buildings down. But we took the windows first. Because you know what? We about making things happen. We're not gonna break something that we can use. What? Okay. So yeah, we went there fighting. So you got to understand that people know the truth about us. We just don't know the truth about ourselves. But if you're sitting up there staying in limbo, being an urban Indian, and like, I'm satisfied with that, I'm good. What about the people that come after you? How are they going to be good? Do you have a territory? Can you really claim it as an urban Indian? It's hard to do it as a nation. I can't imagine doing it as an urban Indian. How about being a Native American? A Native American, you can't claim not a doggone thing, because you're controlled by the U.S. government. So you can't do anything independent of what the U.S. government, what daddy says you can do. Ooh, you better listen to the daddy. Ooh, you better listen to Uncle Sam. Now, Uncle Sam don't say you can't do it. You can't do nothing, because what you're asking for is Uncle Sam to be your zaddy. When you want to be a recognized Native American, they're not even called Indians. They're called Native Americans. When you be a recognized Native American, zaddy is Uncle Sam. We have to stop being under this mental slavery This African slave mental stress disorder is something that is toxic and dangerous. We have to, well, you have your own card, right? Or you don't? Well, that's because you haven't been working on anything, have you? But this time, and I'm telling you, hey, are you ready to work on it? Let's go. I'm an open book. Use me, baby. I'm ready. Anyway, the question is, who out there is ready? That's the question. I'm going to say thank you, Indigenous One, if you're still there. And I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. I will be going live again shortly, possibly today. And I will be talking about some really good personal law stuff. So that should be some juicy things to sink your teeth into, because I'm going to get down and dirty with, some details that may interest you if you have a mind bent to know how it works when you're out there dealing and politicking with the American colonization society that still exists.
About to get medieval on your asses.
All right. So what time, George? I don't know exactly. It'll be this afternoon sometime. Probably closer to 6 or 7, like in that time frame, 7:30, around there. Yeah, somewhere in there. But yeah, what you got to say? Anything you want to add?
Beautiful. Listen, you see all this stuff this woman is going through? She's going through it for you guys. She's going through it for me. Let's show her some appreciation, you guys. Do some genealogy on yourself. Find out who you are. Find out who your people are. Just don't pretend and lie like Black people have been trained to do. Really do it.
Yep. That's the thing. That's the thing that's going to change your condition. That's the thing that's going to change the world, because they're eating off of our plate. They're eating off of our backs every day. The entire planet conspires in these lies about us. You don't think all these daggone people across the world don't know the truth? A lot of people know the truth, that we are the actual people of this country. Kids ain't got no stories about missing people. No missing relatives. Please. And this is the thing. Why wouldn't there be a plethora of African culture and heritage and ceremonies and traditions in this country when you were putting millions upon millions of Africans in at a steady, constant stream? We were meeting fresh Africans every daggone hour. The culture should be outstanding. The daggone presence of the language should be still here. With that many constant, that big of a constant stream of Africans, think about it. It makes no sense. Millions upon millions of them coming at the same daggone time period, and you're going to tell me there's no culture, no language, no remnants of daggone, no traditions, no daggone ceremonies that come from Africa here? Why? Because it's a daggone lie. Right, they were removing us, especially the Acamats. Oh, they're deporting Native Americans. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I can't be bothered. I'm not concerned. I don't wish anything on anybody else. I'm just, I got my own things to deal with. But basically, yeah, I don't know if I believe it. I mean, I think that, I think the fact of it, that it's known that a lot of them ain't from here. They're either straight-ass Mexicans or they're straight-ass Asians. And the government created that. So if now you want them gone, I guess they're going to need to get rid of them. And let me tell you something. If it's real, it's because, let's be honest, all these daggone Negroes figure out that we've been robbed, and they're gonna need every cash cent they can get, and wasting it on a bunch of fake Native Americans ain't a way to get the money up. They're gonna have to go because the government made them. They're the easiest thing to get rid of because the government made you Native American. It's not a real thing. It's a government fiction. It's the political status. So if they use it under the guise of them being ejected because of immigrant status or they find some law, it's because the reality is they made them and they have the right to get rid of them because they're created by the federal government. And all that stuff that you think that you are because the government made it up is fiction because you don't have a history that's tied to all the things that were actually created in this country to start it off. You were not here in the 1600s. You were not even addressed by these immigrants. You didn't have to fight these immigrants. You didn't have treaties with these immigrants. You didn't have to negotiate with these immigrants to daggone keep them off your land. You didn't have to fight them off. You didn't have to do any of this because you ain't us. So if they decide to sweep them away because they're an expense they can't afford right now, it's understandable. But that would be the reason why they're doing it. It ain't because, it's because they're an expense they can no longer afford to keep because it doesn't work. It's not working to stop the Indians from coming together. Their existence was placeholders as these are the real Indians. These are the Native Americans. They were supposed to be a block to us ever believing that we were the actual Indians. It failed. They no longer have a purpose in the deception of the Negro Indian. Therefore, they need to be eliminated as an expense. And they take up billions of dollars of expense. Believe it. I'm just saying. They got a clean house. They brought in all this garbage to try to scare us off, to try to starve us off from being able to succeed, to be able to daggone have jobs, have businesses, have places that we could elevate to. Now they got a clean house because all these people have taken up all the resources and they're gonna have to play nice with the Indians. They really are gonna have to. Time's up. There is a universal law that they have to follow, even in their demonic ways. They have to follow this universal law. And so when we know the truth, there's only so much they can do to us when we object. And they cannot do anything to stop this from going the way it's going, which is we will reclaim what is ours. All they can do is minimize the damage to them by freeing up more resources and more territory. By getting rid of the people that they pushed in here to take up room to try to move us out. Right? That's true about that DNA test. That's a joke. But yeah. But anyway, like I said, the most important thing we can do right now is to come together. The most important thing we can do right now is to repatriate and do it in the right way and come together as the confederation that we are and build from there. Get all our stuff back. Stand together, 10 toes down, or 9 if you only have 9, or, whatever's going on. But like I said, stand together. Get this back. Fight this fight. Time is now. Do it the right way. All these little social societies, that ain't your family. They may be your enemy. You don't even know who you daggone hooking up with. You could be hooking up with daggone enemies of your nation. You're really hooking up with people that are part of the American Colonization Society, because anybody who wants you to do anything except get together with your family and build a real nation that can actually claim real heritage rights and land. It's deceiving you. Do it the right way. Fight this African slave mental stress disorder. When you go the right direction, it all becomes clear and everything makes sense. Anna.